G'day legends, I hope that you're having a fantastic day. Now today we're going to go over a situation that unfolded yesterday and went very viral on the internet and why it went viral, and we'll talk a bit more in this. But this won't be my daily news update as usual. This will be one of my, standalone videos where I analyze a certain situation and using my experience or knowledge on something to give, opinion on it. And what we're going to speak about today is the large number of soldiers we saw ambushed, captured, and killed in Mali yesterday by the Tuareg Islamist militant group. Now, the reason this, of course, went massive on the internet was a lot of these killed and captured were foreign soldiers, Russian military contractors from the former Russian PMC group, Wagner. Now, Wagner work under different names as they were officially disbanded, but just for the sake of simplicity, as well as what affiliated groups refer to them as, we'll just call them Wagner. You may also see them referred to as musicians. But when I say they have been disbanded, that official status of disbanded has taken place. They now come under the MOD. There's also very private parts of Wagner where you can be privately hired, as well as parts that come under intelligence services, as well as we have seen them participate in larger asymmetrical operations by the Russian FSB and SVR as well. But that is a video for another day. Now, I'll talk over my experience, where this happened, how it happened. I'll look over ambushes, my experience with this, as well as prevention of something like this then occurring. Now, who am I? So I don't have no experience with this, but nor am I some Delta SAS Mando with 25 years of running and gunning. So I served in the Australian Infantry. I served in Afghanistan as an armoured vehicle commander of a MRAP, PMV, whatever you want to call it, same. In Afghan, this was then my vehicle here, armoured vehicle. Very similar, at least, to then the vehicles that we saw were ambushed yesterday. So I think I can speak on this a little bit. Now, what I will say is, thank God, I never found myself or my platoon in a situation like this, because I can appreciate the deadliness of an attack and ambushes in general. And I am not surprised at all to see in a well-executed, deliberate ambush, and we'll go over these specific terms and what they mean, I'm not surprised at all to see this huge amount of casualties in the kill zone. As an infantryman, being ambushed, a deliberate ambush like this, is your worst fear. It's on ground time of the choosing of your enemy and the worst possible for you. So what we'll do, we'll go into like a clip art draw pad thing. We'll look over situations and how you may get ambushed, mounted and dismounted, and what you would do on the ground if you're one of then the survivors. We'll also talk about prevention of such an attack. But something we need to point out is luck. Luck is this unknowable black matter that works in warfare and is always present. And there's things you can do to increase good luck, decrease bad luck, and opposite to that as well. But at the end of the day, there's always an element just of luck that has nothing to do with skill or planning, just bad luck. And this is similar to the very infamous video, the GoPro footage of the American Special Forces group in Niger, so very close to this, getting ambushed. There's only ever so much you can do. And another example of this, a very close friend of mine was traveling in a Special Forces group, hit an IED. He was thrown from the vehicle due to the blast wave passing through him, as well as the hit on the ground. Swelling pinched his spinal cord, making him temporarily paralyzed on the ground. Everything went silent, and then the machine guns in the kill group picked up, and that is what we call a complex ambush, and that is what we've seen more and more through the development of the tactics in these groups. Is not just you come into an area and they fire on you. You might hit an explosive. You may have guys get out of the vehicles, and then they will launch the second part of this. We'll go over all the doctrine behind these groups. So we're not going to go into politics of who Wagner or Tuareg are, but what I will say just off the bat is, regardless your opinion of Wagner PMC, Tuareg, these guys are not your friends. These are radical jihadists, but they are local to the area. And this yellow part here is where they are present. So across Mali, Niger, Algeria, and Libya, all places of which there's a lot of foreign involvement into here in Africa. And this specifically occurred basically on the Mali and Algeria border. So just to give that quick breakdown. So let's look at what happened. We'll relate this to the doctrine, try and put this together the best that I can for you. Okay? At the moment, though, what we actually have confirmed is difficult to know. So this is from a Russian group. What happened in Mali? Everyone has seen the footage of our dead soldiers from Wagner PMC. Looking at all this, the terrorists in slippers and without equipment, the question arises, how did this happen? One thing of which Russia, the entire West, and everyone should learn very quickly is never underestimate a local force, regardless of their equipment and what they're wearing and what their training is, going into an area against a local force and the ability they can have there. Look at Afghanistan against any country you basically want to point at. Let's look at the question from a tactical point of view and answer the most popular. Why is this so? Anyone who's been in the desert or even has an idea of open terrain should understand that it is almost impossible to fight there, especially when working from different directions. The terrorists, taking advantage of their numbers and weather conditions, struck. The place was very convenient for an ambush. Ambush is greatly in the ambusher's odds. They choose when, they choose where, they choose how. You, on the other hand, if you're in there, you have no idea it's going to happen, and they choose the when, where, and how specifically to be the best for them and worse for you. The militants were armed with anti-tank guided munitions, machine guns, and were burned at the entrance. So anti-tank guided munitions and machine guns, we can see by some of the footage. It's on the Telegram if you'd like to see. Then the vehicles burned out in the area. To me, signalling complex ambush. Now, why was there no aviation support and escort? There was support, but unfortunately arrived too late. Ambush can come and go insanely quickly. By the time you get on the blower, everyone could be dead, or it could then be over as well and withdrawing. The moment the storm began, therefore it turned out to be ineffective. The other side was fired upon and it had to make a hard landing. So there's a lot of talk that a chopper went down with senior guys in it too. Again, it's not 100% confirmed. What I will say is I'm yet to see any photographs of the chopper down. And for propaganda like these photographs released, a helicopter would be a massive propaganda piece. And if we don't see that image show up in the next few days, I will then doubt it. Now, continuing. Where did the battle take place from? The battle was fought from the heights. The place was very well chosen, a mountain and several hills around. We did not plan this ambush in 5 minutes, but worked out all possible plans. So this wasn't what we call a snap ambush where it's just, oh shit, there's enemy, we've seen them first, let's ambush them. This was deliberate, therefore it is more deadly. You're choosing when, you're choosing where, you're choosing how. Now the battle was fought by shepherds and slippers. How so? Like I said in the beginning, never underestimate someone in their area where they are indigenous to defend or then launch attacks there, especially when ideologies are involved. Russia, America, Australia, Canada, everyone, we have learnt this the bloody hard way in different areas of operation around the world. But they talk about here something that is a little bit conspiratorial, but again, we'll talk about it because it is part of this. Since the beginning of 13, foreign instructors, French American Marines, have actively working with them. This merit is not due to the militants, but precisely to those who practice all this with them. There is no point in belittling the abilities and skills of the same slippers. They have been fighting the desert for more than 12. They've been fighting, some of these guys have been fighting for decades, centuries. And 5 years ago, a group of the US elite Green Berets was destroyed in a shooting battle, like we spoke about in the beginning. Regardless of your skill and your equipment on the ground, if you are struck by an ambush, everything is insanely difficult and luck is not on your side on that day. Now, was there training into this group or not? This is something that is both also impossible to prove and disprove. Have the Western nations trained radical groups before? Yes. Is it still ongoing? Yes. Has Russia done the exact same? Absolutely. Now, to my knowledge of the French in this region, they actually never got this far up near Algeria due to the danger of groups like this and then this happening. Again, what people are pointing to as evidence of this is one of the weapon systems seen here used, that this is an FN mag, I believe. Now, I am no weapons expert. I couldn't really care less about specific types of weapons other than what I was bloody handed. But this is a Chinese, a VP-11 vehicle, I believe, here as well. In the background, we have, these are the only images I think I can actually show you of this. But plus, there was no aerial reconnaissance of the area using UAVs. Big problem. How long did the fighting last? Everything lasted 2 days. The main column was defeated on the first day, including, we want to say that you should not underestimate an enemy, even if he's wearing slippers at the moment. Successful negotiations on the ransom of prisoners are being held. We're waiting for further development of this event. So that is another interesting piece, is there was prisoners taken, apparently being then held for ransom. Going along point 4 here, which is what they want to point out, is there in Western involvement in this. The same group and other groups are sharing this around, is that terrorists a message was circulated online where terrorists from Azawad want to have a friendly handover with hostages from among the musicians Wagner to Ukrainians. And I've also seen this shared around then the Ukrainian pages too. It turns out no one will hand over the hostages to the Ukrainians. They've already been exchanged for ransom. So we'll remind you that Azawad is an absolutely classic Islamist terrorist organisation which is hiding behind the People's Liberation Movement of Tuaregs in northern Mali, local branches of Al-Qaeda. So again, bad guys fighting bad guys, as I think most people should then probably see this. But the first elements of ambush, if you are on the ground, this has occurred, that you need to take into account. You hear the guns pick up and you are by some miracle alive, is you basically just have to accept that you've got massive KIA, WIA, and that you are likely going to die in this, and the only shot that you and your boys have is to then attack the fighting force on you. Now, there is an infinite amount of ways an ambush can be placed, but the counter ambush drill is fairly simple. Get out of the kill zone, close with the enemy, and attack them. That is the only real shot that you actually then have. So let's look over then the types of ambush before I show you specific maybe movements. An ambush is a surprise attack from a concealed position on a moving or temporarily halted target. An ambush need not to seize or hold ground. The purpose of an ambush is to destroy or to harass enemy forces. The ambush combines the advantages of the defense and the advantages of the offense. So you're in defensive cover, but launching an attack onto your enemy, allowing a smaller force with limited means the ability to destroy a much larger force. Ambushes are enemy-oriented. Terrain is held only long enough to conduct the ambush, and then the force withdraws. Ambushes range from simple to complex and synchronized. So simple, come in, guys move forward, you shoot at them, that you piss off. Complex, you have, like I spoke about with my friend, bomb goes off, you might have supporting elements move in or people get out of the vehicles and then you launch then the secondary attack. And synchronized is, right, we're going to ambush here, they'll withdraw, then we'll ambush them over here as well, all of which we have seen these style of groups conduct very successfully, I'll say as well. Ambushes employ direct fire systems as well as other destructive means such as command detonator mines and explosives, and indirect fires on the enemy force. So you might have even mortars, say, involved. The attack may include an assault to close with and destroy the enemy, or may just be harassing assault by fire. Ambushes may be conducted as independent operations or part of a larger operation. So it may just be fire on, piss off. You may fire on and then attack through and have a cleanup operation after this then as well. But units smaller than a platoon normally does not conduct an area ambush. Anti-armour ambushes focusing on moving or temporarily halted armoured vehicles. So, of course, you want more elements involved in this due to how they can counter and manoeuvre. But again, these rules are all fluid as to what happens on the ground. Based on the amount of time available to set an ambush, ambushes are set in hasty and deliberate. hasty, some will talk to as a snap ambush, but this sounds more like a deliberate. They set the place, they set the time, they set then the how. A hasty ambush is conducted based on an unanticipated opportunity. So say when I was doing all my jungle stuff, then you see the enemy, they haven't seen you, you set then a snap ambush on them, but of course that can happen the other way. Of course it's not going to be as effective because you're not going to have your how, where, and when is not going to be as good as deliberate, but you've still got that element of surprise. And you see the enemy sees before you have time to act. A deliberate ambush is conducted against a specific target, a location chosen on intelligence. And we'll then talk about how then this can have a huge effect on how things have happened, because you've got both proactive and reactive. So let's talk that deliberate is proactive. Okay, we're collecting intel. We want to hit this enemy, where your hasty, your snap is reactive. We've seen them. Let's then do it. And a proactive attack typically is far more deadly. But it can also, on that snap, can also happen just for a vehicle breakdown than anything. So let's look at what you may do, what your best odds are, what is the drill if something like this then happens. So counter ambush. Situation: there is very little time or space for your team to maneuver, and simply hiding in cover will result in your inevitable destruction. Therefore, team's intent is to fight through and out of the kill zone as quickly and as violently as possible. Dump all the rounds, all the grenades, everything you have. You're about to be inevitably destroyed. Team members in the killing zone without order or signal immediately return continuous suppressive fire. So turn into the fight, whether it's a vehicle or infantry, and fight, throw frag grenades, commence fire and movement to assault through and occupy enemy positions. You need to go into the enemy positions. The result of this is your team has moved out of the kill zone, hindered by enemy fire, and prevents the enemy from firing a team without risking fratricide. So also a huge danger in this, because it's absolute chaos. In the event there is another friendly team not in the kill zone at the start of the ambush, that team becomes a base fire element, so they will be that force as well to maneuver to try and push out then who has then set the ambush. Now we'll look over both a side, like the most simple ambushes, like a side parallel, basically linear ambush on vehicles, as well as like an ambush from the front against infantry here. So let's say, and we'll go deliberate ambush. These are then the vehicles moving through here. And ambush, complex ambush is set, and that this vehicle here is blown up. And these may be the machine gun positions. They may blow up this vehicle and then not do anything, wanting then maybe this vehicle to come in, tracking out wounded, trying to then get the vehicle, trying to tow the vehicle, and then the ambush will be sprung and you've got guys out in the open, and these vehicles may have then moved further into then the kill zone. Now, what occurs if this then happens? Well, vehicles should try, continue momentum, and push through if possible. So a vehicle like this, push through and out of the kill zone to give some base fire of operations if doable. These vehicles, let's say these two are stuck in this, should do everything to turn into the fight, especially armoured vehicles, due to main armour is in the front of a vehicle, and return fire as heavy as possible into here as you're about to be completely destroyed. If these vehicles can move out, they want to then get out of the kill zone. In armoured vehicles, you may be better going just with your momentum forwards, but let's say for the case it was better to move rearwards. What they would try and do is turn and conduct a very hasty snap attack and a flank. So move up onto the flank of this, turn if they can, and then have a fight through element as quickly as possible and occupy these positions with dismounted soldiers out of these vehicles too. Does this not sound great? It's not great, because you've just been caught in a deliberate set ambush and you'll have massive killed in action here as well. Not a fantastic situation to be in at all. I will say our drills were, if you hit in something like this, the vehicle is destroyed, is to continue trying to push through that situation. Now, let's go. I will say too that there'll be infantry guys and armoured guys look at this, go, that's not what this is for trying to break down for the most simple way that I can. It's not for you, it's for the average person listening. So this is your infantry here, and let's go ambush, I guess, front on. Now, this isn't perfect by any means for anyone, but let's say they've had a front then attack. You're going to mow down a lot of these guys. But let's say that you are, these guys have been killed here. This guy is alive, but or injured or can't move out of the kill zone. Taking just cover in is not going, he needs to return as much fire as possible here. If these guys are able to move out of the kill zone, this is the best option for them, is to then get out of the kill zone. But again, there could be cut-off elements. There can be anything like in this. There may be a group back here that has let the convoy pass them. And if they try and move rearwards, we'll then cut them off. Again, everything is in the favour of the ambusher, not the ambushee. Yeah, the person setting them the ambush. These move up here and try with any means, bayonets, whatever they can, massive amounts of fire. Well, you'd turn inwards here, my little praying yoga dudes. And then try and conduct an attack as much as you can through these positions. Again, this is not going to be great because a well-set ambush will have guns facing in this direction as well and this direction to try and cut you off if you do this as well. The counter ambush drill is immediate action, no orders, turn into the fight, try and flank if you can, but you need to then take the fight to the enemy and close with the enemy as much as possible. So what can be done to avoid and I guess prevent ambushes like this? Well, the first is that dark matter of luck, which we can influence better and worse luck, but there'll always be an element of luck. But good drills and discipline has a lot to then do with this. If you're disciplined and the vehicles are well maintained, then they won't be as likely to then break down. Therefore, you're not giving that reactive chance to your enemy to then hit you. Again, bad luck. You could just have a fuel pump go on the side of the road. I know when we were deployed, I can't remember the exact number, but it was like if you were stopped for over 15 minutes in an area, your odds of getting hit exponentially then increase. But there's things like having tow straps already on the outside of your vehicle with shackles on and shackles not too tight, that if a vehicle does break down, it's very quick to have one guy get out, it's already ready to go, shackle it on and go out. Also, those drills of what happens then in just a convoy, that you're not too far apart, you're not too close together, you might be staggered, you don't let vehicles in your convoy because it could be a VBID to set off, hit a vehicle in a location, and then you're hit by the secondary of then the complex ambush. And a big one that I think may have occurred here, and I'm not sure on this, is setting patterns on the ground. That if you are going town to town, you don't take the same route every day because they're going to learn and go, oh, okay, then at 10 o'clock every Tuesday, they travel down this road. Let's set a bomb here, and this is a good location on these hilltops to then hit. So it all comes down to better discipline, better drills can then prevent, to a degree, the odds of you getting ambushed and them having a successful ambush, but it doesn't mean that then you won't get hit. Again, massive amount of luck. You get hit in an ambush. You can do these drills all you want. You can rehearse these drills, and that improves your likelihood of survivability to a degree. But that first vehicle that's hit, the follow-up from there, not religious, but there's no atheists in a foxhole. But there were some notable people who were killed or maybe have been killed in this. So one of the admins of Grey Zone, which is a very large Wagner-affiliated group, was killed during the RPD in Mali. Our comrade 500, aka White, the author of Grey Zone Channel, and the guys from Wagner died. Negotiations are underway to release the prisoners. So this bloke here, of course, a very known figure in that world. Now, the big one, but this is unconfirmed. I'm seeing people, Ukrainian pages confirm it, but I haven't seen Grey Zone or this other page confirm it yet, is one of the commanders of Wagner, then Lotus. Now, if you want to watch a good video on who this guy is, History Legends has a good one on this, but of course, he was given a Hero of Russia medal commendation, but as well, he was in charge of what happened in Soledar, as well involved in Bakhmut, incredibly experienced guy. He stepped up when Prigozhin was killed. So again, waited on that one, but it seems to have been a very successful attack there. So ambush fucking sucks for everyone unless you are the ones conducting then the ambush, and you can fight a much larger, much more powerful, much better trained force in an ambush than in just a straight up then assault. So that is to be taken into account too. How did this happen? Well, bad luck, maybe poor drills, maybe setting patterns, maybe lack of supporting elements, but to the same degree, this is something that we're going to see more and more of, and more success with this, with groups that have been trained by another power with actual training doctrine as well come through, whether it is groups trained by the Chinese, trained by the Russians, trained by the West. If we ever try and step back into Afghan, well, everything we taught about that, we are going to then have against us as well. So that's just, I guess, my piece on what is an ambush, what are the different types of ambush, what can realistically be done to try and stop that. And it comes down to not getting yourself in that situation, but there are times when it's impossible not to be in that situation. I will say I'm not surprised at all by the huge casualties we saw take place in a successful ambush like that. To be honest, I'm actually more surprised there's bloody anyone alive. Anyway, have a great day, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.